welcome to Curiosity Not Judgment. My name is Birga.
And I'm Gary.
And we have lots of conversation before we start these videos. We were trying to decide what to kick off today's session with, and we've landed on Judgment online. And so I can open it up with a story and we'll see where this takes us.
Sounds good.
So several years ago, my girls were involved in a pretty serious car accident. And without going into all the details, it's a car accident that should have killed them. And by God's grace, they were saved and had only minor injuries. But the situation that unfolded with the accident and the way that emergency services came, the county fire department and ambulance services showed up, the way that they cared for the girls was really remarkable. So it was my two girls and two others that were in the back seat, so 4 girls total. And I had posted something on my Facebook page in just extreme gratitude for the services that had been rendered that saved their lives. And then that posting, I got asked by the county sheriff's department, could they have permission to repost it? I said, sure. One thing leads to another. I get a phone call from the local news station wanting to do a news story on the accident. So I felt stable at that time when all the shock had been out of the way. This was a few days later. So granted permission to the local news station. They sent over a reporter, did a brief little story, and then I was told, approximately when it would air. And I was not able to watch it live on TV at the time of the airing, so I went to the website to go watch it after the fact. So logged into the website, saw the story, and of course online, at least at that time, they had made it available for people to post comments. And one of the very first comments under the story was something to the effect of, I bet she was on her phone, serves them right. And I kind of died inside, and then I got real angry, and then I got sad, and then just the whole range of emotions. And I'm thinking to myself, who the heck does this guy think he is? For there to be this snap judgment after watching a news story about an accident that could have cost the lives of 4 teenage girls, and for that to be the response, I don't know, I just marveled, what has happened in our world that we have so disassociated people through our screens that we feel like we can make these judgment calls or these really ugly statements to one another and it not have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of wanted to talk about just that concept of hiding online, intentional or otherwise, or allowing the screen to really serve as a shield between you and another human being, and almost a permission for there to be judgment rather than curiosity. And I'm sure you've had your fair share of online experiences that you can speak to as well. And so what comes to mind on this topic?
Well, the whole issue of being online is one that's it's a new phenomenon that's kind of like it puts Miracle-Gro on things that people used to think anyway, but didn't say out loud. Yeah. And kind of like, it's okay to be angry. It's what you do with the anger. It's okay to be judgmental momentarily, but then what do you do with that? And do you spew it? Do you state it out loud? It's awfully easy to do that when you're not with a person. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why we take in international students is because we believe wholeheartedly that it's hard to hate someone once you get to know them, right? And if these things that were being said online would not be said to a loved one, a family member, or somebody probably if they were sitting in your living room, so why would you say it online? And so I make it a practice never to do any judgment online. As a matter of fact, I only do encouragement. And I think it's fine to ask questions of clarification in an encouraging way, but judgment online just seems, what is it going to benefit? How could it possibly benefit? Now we're judging the person that that said this.
Sure.
Just not to say that we've got this figured out. We're on a journey just like everyone else.
Right.
But this person maybe has an agenda where there's been a couple of near misses with people on phones or whatever, and he's got it out that every accident is caused these days because of cell phones. Like accidents didn't exist before cell phones, right? Or and maybe they've been hurt or something, and they just feel like this is a platform publicly to say, people stay off your phones. There's probably better ways to do it.
Sure.
And unfortunately, you and your girls got caught in the crossfire there. But again, without knowing the situation, and I think this is the whole point of, if you don't know something, then don't judge. Judgment prior to investigation is the root of where prejudice and other problems that we have in our society come from.
Yeah. Well, so you said something that I want to dive into a little bit deeper. You said, what good does it do to cast judgment online? But then I instantly thought of, well, what about rankings and ratings for different services? Is there not benefit for something like that? And I'm thinking specifically, I know we're going to have medical as a whole standalone topic, but in this case, I'm going to talk about medical ranking online. In the last few months, I had need to see a neurologist. And I got assigned to the only available neurologist in my insurance covering. And I had a conversation with somebody who had previously been to that office and had not felt like they'd received good service. And she said to me, "Oh, you should go online and read the reviews." She's like, stay far away. And I thought, okay. And then I thought, oh, great. The only appointment I can get, now it's going to be a terrible doctor. And I went online, and sure enough, the most horrible reviews.
Wow.
Horrible reviews, like stay away, the staff is rude, so unprofessional. Somebody took a picture of the couch in the lobby, like as an example of, I don't know, whatever they were upset about the couch. Whole slew of negative, really harsh, judgmental comments against this man and his profession and his staff. And I tried very hard to get a different doctor. I tried everything I knew how to do, including, go to some important people to ask if they could put in a good word with somebody who wasn't seeing patients, and nothing happened. And I ended up having to see this guy. Well, I felt like I was treated very respectfully.
Right.
I felt like I was listened to. I felt like he did a thorough examination. I felt content with my service, seeing this doctor. And so then I felt like, well, gosh, I don't know. I don't know if reviews online, that hard judgment against a business or a professional online, serves a purpose. Maybe in the world of, Amazon products, etc., if there's a bogus retailer. But I struggle even with this, because I feel like I've been led astray positively and negatively with online reviews.
Online reviews are interesting. Before online, I remember watching, different shows that had a movie critic at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember taking the movie critics with a grain of salt always, because
Sure.
it's like, maybe the cinematography wasn't up to snuff, but it's a good story, right? Or they didn't like the plot line, but it was a good old-fashioned comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, there was a happy ending like all American films, and this person doesn't like that. I think taking online reviews with a grain of salt is fine. And listen, I don't care about a doctor's couch, quite frankly.
Nor do I, but I am concerned if I'm not going to be listened to.
But then have your own experience.
Yeah.
I'm a cancer survivor, as you know, and I can tell you that my own experience was I wanted to get every medical opinion I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not afraid to go to any doctor, and they didn't even have online reviews back then, or maybe they did, and I just didn't even think about it. But every single one, I took their opinion as input to the process. Whether it was good or bad is a different evaluation. And so, it's interesting, online reviews, and are they manipulated? And the people who tend to give reviews, like, did you put a review in when you had your positive experience?
No, but I've thought about it. It was just, I got distracted in the moment, and just as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I had intended to do that. It's on my to-do list.
Right. Well, the point is, people don't do positive reviews.
Right.
They only do negative,
Right.
in general, right? And so there's that too. And so is it an input to your decision-making process? Sure. Should it be the only decision-making process? I certainly wouldn't use it like that.
Right. I guess I'm just the most concerned about just how we as people are just disassociating the humanity that's attached to somebody on the other side of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it happens in increasing measure the deeper we get into COVID and the more every aspect of business is being driven online, and how we have limited even face-to-face interaction at work anymore. We have online meetings, we have online shopping, we have online medical visits, online everything. And it's really detaching the human behind the person's represented on the other side of the screen. And so it is becoming increasingly easy to have these snap judgments because you're not looking somebody in the eye. You're not seeing the facial expression. And, you wouldn't tell me to my face, I bet your daughter was on the phone, and just these things that happen when we don't have this human to human contact. And I can only imagine what this is going to do to the business world long term. And I'm sure that you're seeing a whole lot of this because so much of your business is, state to state, even nation to nation. And are you seeing a difference in how people are treating one another?
Absolutely. And, the joke, just yesterday, I met somebody for the first time who's very influential in the state of New Mexico and for my business. And he was making the joke that we meet people 2 or 3 times. You meet them on Zoom first. Then if you meet them in person, you meet them with a mask on.
Right.
And then you're in a situation where you see the mask off, and it's like each time is different.
Right.
You get a different kind of link into their soul or their personality or their being. And it's fascinating. We used to teach. I used to have a medical services company. We would teach our nurses not to put the laptop in front of them that they're taking notes on to talk to the other person, but put it to the side because of the psychological barrier that the laptop was. Imagine a mask now.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus the computer.
And in business, a lot of people have forgotten that business is just relationships. It's all about people. People, they don't want to be sold, but they do want to buy. And part of that process is relationships and trust building. It's difficult to do trust building behind a mask. It's
Absolutely.
certainly difficult to do it online. And what is that technique in which to build trust when you've got a barrier of a mask or a screen in front of you? And so I think that we're going to have to learn how to discern better. And my concern is that people aren't going to learn how to discern better. They're just going to make snap judgments.
Yeah.
I lived 18 places by the time I went to college. I was the proud son of a military officer. And I thought that made me very adaptable and very quick to size people up. Now, I also have the corollary of very quick to allow people to change. But it's very difficult when someone's behind a mask and you're seeing eyes only. Now, some people can smile through their eyes.
Sure.
But it's difficult to know what their facial expressions are. It's difficult to know how something you're saying is being received, if at all.
Right.
So that's a big hindrance to business. What will the long-term effect be? Does business have to carry on anyway? Sure. How are we going to do it?
Yeah. I will say I've had a doozy of a day, and part of my day was supposed to be online in a conference, a global conference. And I don't know if it was just the perfect circumstance or perfect storm of circumstances that impacted me today, or if I was just off. But I will tell you, watching yet another Zoom conference or whatever platform it was on, I found myself once again talking to the screen, but automatically with judgment based on the things that are being said, because of course it's a real person, but I will never have any interaction with this real person. And it was set up in such a way that there wasn't even comments being taken, no one else is on screen, it's only the key presenters. And so, how often do we find ourselves now talking back to the screen and the person behind it, and like, oh, come on, I caught myself saying this out loud. I question that data. And, because we can't have conversations about stuff. And, conferences where you used to be able to maybe wait at the end of the session and go talk to the presenter and say, hey, Can I understand a little bit more about where you got that
Right.
data, or can you send me some information about the sources that you used? It doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It's 25-minute polished sound bites, and there you go. And so, man, the judgment's thick online.
When I was back at Intel, we would have several fabs, at least two, that would do the same process in case something happened at one of the fabs. It was a way to reduce risk.
What is a fab? I don't know.
Sorry, fabrication plants. This is where we made the chips that
Okay.
went into the computer chips for Intel that went into the computers. And so, thank you for defining fab. So there would be two plants, let's just call them plants, that would be doing the same process. And I was an engineering manager, and so we found benefit in talking to the engineers at the other plant running the same process. What are you guys seeing? What are you guys seeing? Oh, sometimes you see something before we do, et cetera, et cetera. And so we'd have these things called JETs, which is Joint Engineering Teams.
Okay.
And I found out early on that if you're just on a teleconference, you've never met the person, sometimes this is teleconference, let alone Zoom and what we're doing now. You'd be sitting there looking at the phone instead of at a screen and going like, where are these people coming from? You're making little motions. You'd be in a conference room, they'd be in a conference room. And so what I figured out real quick is we all need to meet someplace and have dinner. Now, we don't necessarily have to do a team building, although I think there is a good way to do team buildings, but at least go meet at a meal at one location and get to know each other. This person's an introvert. He's only going to speak when she's going to talk and have to have input no matter what the subject is. And you get to know the different personalities. Not that any of them are good or bad, they're just different. And so that way, the next time you're on a teleconference, at least okay, this person's not going to say something unless you ask them. This person's not crazy, right? They always come from left field, and I can value that actually as a way to think about, that's different than what I would have thought. But it's so easy when you've never met the people to just go, these people are crazy, and they're from that fab, but once you're together and you mix it up, well, then it's a whole different story. How are we going to accomplish getting together in person and talking about things and making those relationships and building that trust so that then we can go and have all the Zoom meetings you want?
Right.
But how do we accomplish that these days?
Right. Well, and you bring up something that I think is a really important thing to discuss and to consider is personality types and how that is completely masked by the digital platform, whatever you're using to have these meetings. And so you mentioned even just introverts and extroverts. If you've got, even if it was a, 40-60 split, you've got 60% of them are extroverts, 40% introverts, pretty good chance that you've got a big chunk of your people that you're meeting with that you're not going to hear a peep from.
No.
Because they're not comfortable speaking up.
That's right.
They have to be drawn out. You have to get to know them a little bit. They have to feel safe. They have to feel comfortable. And let alone going into the more detailed, more nuanced personality types. In the world where jobs are changing rapidly and people are getting hired online and staying online, working with a team of people remotely that you may never have had opportunity to be in a room with, my goodness, I'm wondering, that makes me think about some of the big training organizations like Giant Worldwide or some of the other ones. What moves are they going to potentially make to address this? Because, we have shifted the way that hiring and firing is being done, how we do business. And so how do you learn somebody's personality type so that you can communicate effectively, and so that you can do your job well when it's just a person on the end of a camera in some other state?
My practice is to weave into the conversation somehow certain things about me so that they can discern it by me telling them instead of being able to do it face to face. I constantly am saying, there's provisional plans, promisers, right? Provisional people are, out in left field. They're 20 years down the road. They just want the world to be the way they envision it. Planners are people who are very much realistic and they're not going to tell you about something unless it's happening within a couple of weeks, high probability. Promisers are people who aren't going to talk about it unless it's already happened or it's happening this afternoon, as an example. So frequently I'll just kind of weave in there. Now, remember, I'm a provisional speaker. I'm a provisional person. 95% of what I think, do, and say has no basis in current reality. I'm talking to you about the way I want it to be,
Right.
and I thrive on trying to speak things into existence and making things better, establishing a vision among people. That is sometimes helpful because a lot of times I'll be in a position where I'm saying something to someone and they'll say, "Wow, that already happened." It's like, no, it's what I want to happen.
Right.
And how do you discern that
Right.
if you've never been in a meeting with someone before
Yeah.
and it's over Zoom?
Yep.
How do you know? And you can drive people nuts. Who, I mean, I drive, promisers nuts anyway. But imagine if you're in a Zoom situation and you don't know that, and the promiser is talking about something that absolutely just can't happen or will never happen because from their place it's not happening today.
Yeah.
And I'm going, well, absolutely we can do that. EVs are the future, and we're going to have truck stops of the future. We're going to have many fast chargers, and that's the way it's going to be. And we need to start figuring out how to get there. And a promiser is just looking at that going, that's never going to happen. And I don't even see that happening, right?
Yeah.
And so how do those two people figure that out about each other? Now, both are valuable. It's not that
Absolutely.
one is less valuable than the other. And you have to have executors, and the visionary people would be nothing without the executors, and executors would be nothing without the visionaries. And so how do you discern that on a Zoom call
Right.
and figure out how to act as a team? That's one of the issues that we face that we need to get through. And I think curiosity, not judgment, is ask questions.
Yeah.
Wow, you really believe that's going to happen? Could you put a percentage on that for me? And a time frame. Oh, well, yeah. When I talk about truck stop of the future with, a couple of dozen fast chargers, I think that's probably 15 years out. And I think there's about a 70-80% chance of probability that's going to happen. Ah, okay. So you're not saying it's next year.
Right.
No, but I'm saying if we don't start building them now, they won't be there when we need them.
Yeah.
Right? And so those kind of conversations, asking questions is even more critical today.
Yeah. So then that puts a wrench in a lot of the plans for folks to get in, get out, get on with the work, because I think we are so fatigued. We are so fatigued with being online. We don't want to ask the questions. We don't want to drag out the conversation. Boy, do I find myself in that situation and even cringing when somebody starts asking questions like, I want to go have lunch.
Right.
Whatever it is. Gosh, any immediate thoughts about how do we even temper ourselves in those moments where we've become impatient with the online process and maybe our short attention span is ruling the day?
I resemble that remark. I will tell you that I often want to use the excuse of, okay, I think I've got enough agreement where I can go off and do my thing that I want to do anyway, right? And my whole philosophy of life is proceed until apprehended. So I'm going to go off and do things, on a little bit of agreement anyway. But, Stephen Covey used to say, you can be efficient with things, but effective with people. You can't be efficient with people. And the joke he used to say that we've all been through is you can't plan 5 minutes to break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. You have to plan appropriate times to get through things. You don't have general consensus or even tacit alignment if you've only spent 5 minutes describing what you want to go do and then go do it. And so as fatigued as we are of being online, it's almost going to take more time online than it is in person. In my experience, it does. So we're going to have to get used to really putting the time and effort into really understanding where people are at on the other end of a Zoom line. One of the things I try to do all the time is turn my camera on, because at least the micro inequities and all of that can help. And people on the other end of the line don't, think that I'm just off doing whatever I want to do and answering emails while I'm supposedly on a call. But I participate right now in some calls where no one's showing their camera.
Right.
And you're just on a phone, you're on a WebEx or a Zoom, but you're just using your phone or just the audio portion. You don't know what people's level of engagement or involvement is. So you might say, okay, everybody okay with this? You might not, half the people may not even listening. And you can't even go around the room. I used to do a visual, thumbs up approval. I want to see everybody's thumbs. Right? TUA, thumbs up approval. And how do you do that on Zoom? right?
Well,
When nobody's got their camera on.
yeah, you can push the little thumbs up.
Yeah, you can push the little thumbs up. That's right. If people know where that is. So I think that we have to spend even more time in questions, more time in making sure that people have understanding of what the process is of what's going on and how we make decisions.
Yeah. So if we were going to wrap this up in a nice little package, what would be just some general statements for us to navigate the online world in a curious, not judgment fashion?
Staying curious means asking questions, more questions, clarifying questions, being encouraging, understanding that people are different, and understanding that everybody doesn't think like we do. Wouldn't that be a wonderful world? And yet not, right?
Yeah, it'd be a little troubling.
Exactly. And so therefore, how can I be effective in this online digital world? How can I practice helping and encouraging people and getting towards consensus and alignment on difficult issues? How can I add to that versus somebody who causes disorder and distrust and mayhem?
Yep. All right. Good points. So as always, thank you for your time and attention on Curiosity, Not Judgment. We always want to direct people to the website for any questions, comments, follow-up. Hopefully no strong judgment statements on there, but I guess if you must, you must. We'll address them as they come. CuriosityNotJudgment.com. Yeah, easy for me to say. All right, Gary. Till next time.
Take care.